Well, where do I start? This is an amazing opportunity for my listeners, and it's a privilege and an honor for me. I have with me today on Transformative Conversations, and you know this is all about transformation. I have Ivan and Mariana Pollic. They are seasoned strategic growth specialists. They've honed an expertise in restructuring, scaling, and exiting small to mid-sized businesses to maximize returns, facilitating ethical and profitable transitions for business owners seeking retirement or sale while preserving the team's integrity and instilling long-term value. As executives in the aerospace industry, they've navigated through the minefield. A succession quadrupled the company's revenue and created a wholesome 8-figure exit. In the last 12 years, they have served as advisors to small and medium-sized businesses on some 300 plus board of director meetings. Wow, in various industries and economic sectors. And they find leverage points in high impact times to ensure sustainability in and out of crisis. Their advisory board has done more than 1,000 successful acquisition and exits and scaled 7 businesses past 100 million with 4 billion plus in portfolio sales. They have a network of several thousand investors in a variety of industries with access to capital and expertise to scale your business. And Ivan and Mariana are founders of the Systemic Approach Institute, which focuses on helping leaders and organizations find opportunities in the current transition economy. Their current focus is scouting the intersection of the structural breakdown of legacy industries and the emerging future of innovative evolutionary solutions. They support leaders in leveraging their unique histories and gifts into making their biggest impact in life and business. Concurrently to the Systemic Approach Institute, Ivan serves as the CEO of Lutec, an aerospace manufacturing firm, and Mariana as the Chief Cultural Officer. Together, they co-authored the best-selling book, Bridging Legacy and Innovation to Build a Family Business That Lasts for Generations. They also teach at the California State University Fullerton in the Family Business Dynamic class. Wow. I am so honored and privileged, and my listeners are going to get so much out of this. So thank you both so much for joining me today. I'm honored, and I just know that the listeners will definitely enjoy your journey through time to where you are now and what you're doing. So welcome. welcome. First, I wanted to ask you is what motivated you to become strategic growth, specialists?
Well, thank you for that, generous and lovely introduction. It was a journey. It was a journey out of necessity. We were running an aerospace business. We came in, to take a business that was very founder and owner dependent. And we were tasked with creating a team and a culture and a business that can actually operate independently of the owner.
Okay.
And when we encountered that problem, it was the resistance and immunity to change was so epic that we were just stunned. And that journey lasted for a good decade and a half, with a lot of trials and tribulations and challenges that required a lot of innovative approaches to break through and create. And so that's the reason how we kind of stumbled into this arena, where it was more out of necessity than inspiration.
Oh my goodness. Can you sort of explain some of I know, you say decade, but can you explain to the listeners how you did this process?
Well, both of us are growth oriented, and there was always something to learn and develop, as a human being. And then after we became parents, how are we better, people for our children, and then also more grateful for our parents and, like members of the family unit, both nuclear and extended.
Right.
Ultimately, when we started running the business, it was about how do we help our people as well, because we were on this developmental path, and then we noticed that there were employees who were also inclined towards growth. There were those who were kind of reluctant, oh, I'm good where I am, or what's the point? So pretty much everything that we ever learned anywhere, from any mentor, any program, we brought it back into our business. And, talking about transformative, there was like a big transformation and the push on one side, in terms of business and strategic and culture and everything. But there's also little transformation in the day-to-day. What do you do? How do you show up in your company? And then what is it that you offer to your employees as their own developmental path within your company? So they're not just, skills oriented development, programs, but also as people.
Right.
And so I feel like that's when we realized that, we can develop ourselves, we can help others, and then, how do we do it on the bigger scale?
Wow. To me, it's mind-boggling, because to me, it's like herding kittens. And kittens go all over the place, right? They just don't, they just don't, they don't sit too well in one house. They just want to run. And so, oh my goodness me, that's like huge. How many employees were involved?
At the peak, we had about 110 employees. And, we had an operation cutting metal and creating very high precision machine parts that were going into commercial airliners and military applications, tolerances with less than a hair. And the 24/7 manufacturing operation, which means that while you're sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
things are going wrong all the time. So when you wake up, you get to wake up to problems. And yeah, we did some heavy lifting around that, around culture and around sustainability, and being able to have a business that runs independently of us. That was a major journey. It took a long, long time.
Well, I can attest, being a former flight attendant, that, there wasn't a day that I did a flight, especially after I had my child, my daughter, that safety was just there. I mean, it's drilled into us anyway, but my goodness, yeah, the fact that, like you say, the hairline fracture or anything could go wrong was always, in my subconscious, right? It's like, oh, this is very possible that I might not come home again. So I can't imagine being you on that side of it. And how did you ever sleep?
Well,
He didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. Wow. Just, yeah, it's mind-boggling to me. It really is, how you corralled it, how you did what you did, and how you executed. Oh my goodness. It's just, well, thank you for doing that. Thank you. Oh, wow. So tell me, what fascinates you about growth in terms of strategic growth? What fascinates you?
I don't know.
Well,
You're better at explaining stuff like that.
it's incredibly fulfilling when you can share a lens or a point of view with someone. And when those aha moments happen, when the light bulb turns on, when someone realizes that there is a way out,
Mhm.
Mm,
when someone is stuck royally in major pain, and maybe across multiple dimensions, and then you offer them an elegant and extremely effective way out, in that moment, it's a very, very fulfilling feeling where your path and your discovery and your own transformation is able to point the flashlight in a similar direction and for that flashlight to illuminate a path for someone, a path out of pain, out of desperation, out of suffering.
Mhm.
And that is an extremely fulfilling feeling, and we love to do it. And our job is to point, and the other people's job is to actually opt in and decide to do something about it.
Wow. This is what I love about you both so much is your integrity. I know from the one course I did with you, I just was like these two. First of all, you're married and you work together and you have a beautiful family and you're so integral and it's such a, I don't want to say rarity, but it is. The combination of it all is really really amazing. It really is. And like you say, to point that light, right? But in order to do that, you had to have gone through it. It didn't just, read a book and then, okay, implement the book and here we are, right? You viscerally experienced it. I mean, you went through it somatically as well. And you've been together. I loved I saw the anniversary clip of your journey. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that? Because that solidified to me even more so about how important it was for me to have you here on this podcast because your journey is phenomenal. Can you just expand on that journey? And then I'll point people to watch that video.
Yes. So in a nutshell, after college, I went back to Serbia to fulfill my childhood dream of playing professional soccer. And I got to fulfill that dream. And one of the huge rewards of that whole quest that took 20 years plus was actually meeting Mariana. And Mariana was a sports TV reporter in the city where I played. And after the first game of the first season in that city, she came over to interview me on how the game went that first game. And so, stars aligned and God was behind me and the field was ripe for the moment. And I said a couple of smart things and the rest is history. And
Oh,
so that's a story of how we met. And, 2 years into our relationship, unfortunately, the NATO was exerting political pressure on Serbia and the Kosovo situation. And so then NATO decided to bomb Serbia to exert that pressure against the former president Milosevic
right.
and his shenanigans. And the NATO bombing was a full-on bombing, lasted 73 days, I think. And it was pretty rough with a lot of civilian casualties and targets, getting destroyed. And in the early days of that bombing starting, we decided to go and take cover in Mariana's family farm. And we were there sitting around and waiting for the bombing to end. And then one evening, Mariana's mom kind of put her fist on the table and she said, well, young man, what are your intentions with my daughter? To which I kind of froze up and I was like, my intentions are really good. Really, really good.
I'm a nice person.
My intentions are really good. Oh, so good. So good. And I said, but I don't know that I'm ready for anything major or any big steps here. I'm just, not ready. And,
I'm just trying to hide from the bombs. I'm walking in.
Can I just disappear right now?
Yeah. And then my mother-in-law to be is another bomb.
Yes. And, I come from a divorced family and, not a lot of really model marriages in my family or, that I could really lean into for certainty around marriage and making that move. And so, there were worries about ground troops coming and all of this stuff. And my adopted country was bombing my country of origin.
Wow.
And I felt like what do I do? I mean, do I get involved in this conflict? I just didn't feel like this is a conflict worth getting involved in. And so I got out of the country. We said our goodbyes, and maybe you share kind of what happened to you when that was going on.
Well, it was pretty surreal because you find yourself in this turmoil, and all of a sudden everything stops.
Right.
You're kind of going about your business. You're in college. You're working. He's playing. We're together, and then there's something brewing in the background, and then all of a sudden, boom! There's like bombs flying. And strategic targets and things like that. So it felt surreal on that end because on the other hand, we're here and we're in love and, everything is great and we're kind of, doing our thing in the life. And then all of a sudden, he's leaving the next day, and it's for me like, well, there's no even a mention in my mind. There was no thought thinking, to kind of hold him and keep him and,
Right.
you staying where you're going and we're going to be fine. Look, nothing's happening. I kind of intuitively just knew that I had to let go. And, as he was driving away, I saw his car, kind of pulling out of the, and, he's driving away and, and I thought to myself, when you pray, sometimes people pray regularly, some people pray only when something's, well, I was kind of in the middle, I was kind of doing both, but then I think I prayed never harder in my life. I'm like, God, field, whatever it's out there. If you know that he's the right one for me, like I know that he's the right one for me, we'll somehow, somewhere get together again. And, we will continue, what we had going on already. So that was my experience of, of him going and, kind of inner turmoil, if you will.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I can't imagine. I just can't.
So I get to LA, I make the story quicker, and maybe 2 weeks into us talking on the phone every day and keeping track of this, and the bombing's still going on. It wasn't even close to ending.
Oh,
Something happens inside me on this phone call. So, and I don't know what's going on. Like I hear a voice, hey, you should just go ahead, ask her to marry you. And I'm like, who's calling? Like, what is going on? I just pronounced publicly that I was not ready. I mean, what is going on? And so, go. You should do it now. Now's the time. No way. Back and forth. And I felt like something inside me broke. And I was like, I'm doing this. And I was very uncertain about everything. But I was like, you know what? No matter what the price, no matter, whether this is right or wrong, no matter what the consequences are, I'm going to do this. And I'm doing this.
wow.
And I asked her to marry me. She says yes. And my heart just, boom, expands and kind of settles my mind and brain because he was going crazy. And so I proposed, and now we have a logistical problem because we do this. How do we make this happen? And so we arranged to meet at the border of Bulgaria and Serbia. Mariana gets driven by her dad there to the border, and she walks across with one bag to me. She can probably say a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that's that's in the video that you saw. Yeah, it was from the moment I told my parents, he asked me to marry him, and I said yes, and they were like, okay, and I'm the only child, and they were pretty, the disciplinarians, and I kind of lived already outside of the house, outside of the home as it is. But then, this is a huge step. This is not like going to college to a different city.
No.
So it felt like, from that moment on, we just kind of went into getting, the papers, the passport and all of that. And then my dad drove me. And that's a very, like, when your heart is kind of, you have like two mixed feelings, completely opposite, and your heart is kind of being pulled apart. I see, on one hand, I'm saying goodbye to my dad, and I see him on the other side. So I'm really sad and I'm worried what's going to happen. but then I also see him and I'm so excited. So it's
Whoa.
very, and I'm kind of walking that short path between the two crossings, and it's like I'm a walking mess, right? But then I'm kind of leaving the past and leaving everything behind, and I'm stepping into the new and the new future, and all of that. So that was I don't want to say stressful. It was heartbreaking, but also heart mending, if you will.
I would say torn between two worlds.
Yes.
Wow. Amazing. It's just, and so to continue, I want our listeners to hear this, because this is, to me, is how you do what you do with such excellence now, but continue.
Yeah. So then, from the big emotions there, and, a lot of uncertainty, we go to Bulgaria, we go to Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria, and now we got to get married, because that's the only way we're going to actually get back to the US. But, we got to do it in a foreign language under foreign rules. We have to do physicals. We have to a lot of things and problems. We get to City Hall, but then we don't have a witness. We don't have a second witness. We got a translator, one witness, and we need a second witness. I had to run outside and find a random person on the street, walked into a perfume shop, begged someone to come, and it was a change of shift so that they had two people that someone could sign for us. And then we had a whole problem with the embassy. You had to go to another country, forced honeymoon, lots of trials and tribulations. And out of all the difficulty and friction, we found a way, to make it happen, enjoy it, and start our life together. So that's a story for the grandkids. For those people that want a little more details, they can go to LinkedIn and Facebook.
Yeah,
and find.
I will post that for sure. But it brings me to, you answered what I had as a question, because this was the answer, which regarding some of your most powerful experiences, right? That led to, and now have been able to be transferred, all that, which is huge. If you were to, break it down in all ways of what you went through to then, be able to transfer into business. I mean, that huge transformation, like huge transformation. How many people A, would not have, and B, could not have, and, work their way through it, and then to be able to transfer it to what you do now, because really that's what it is. So
We have some speculation, and I like to make a joke that
okay.
there had to be war for me to have enough courage to do what was supposed to be done.
Exactly.
That's the joke. And also we speculate around what was the voice and what is going on there, because on one hand you can think about it, it's a kind of an answer to a prayer,
Right.
Mariana's prayer, if this is right, let's find a way back together, type of thing. So that's sometimes you have to lean into the unknown. You have to lean into the uncertainty, and you have to go beyond what consciously and cognitively. So that has served us well, and we've learned a lot in the process.
Oh, for sure. Well, I would say it wasn't enough that mom banged on the table, right? That wasn't a loud enough wake-up call. It was perhaps the start of the voice. It's great. Oh my goodness, I love it. Oh wow. So, moving forward, like, what motivates you to continue expanding this field more and more? Because you are. So what motivates you?
Well, I mean, a lot of things, a lot of things. We're both naturally giving and also very aware of the collective, and I love his, presupposition, you yourself need to be a healthy cell in the body of humanity, because we're all, little cells that humanity is made of. And, what we do, it has a ripple effect. When they say, like, what is it that you do on a day to day? And, a lot of people they're not powerful enough to affect a change in society, but actually they are, because if you think about it, what I do affects, him and the children and and our families, and then the neighborhood and societies and all of that. So if we can, by our example and by our work, kind of go and change, one, let's say, change approach of a one business owner after another, who themselves have a bigger influence, among their firms and their employees, no matter how many of them they have,
Right.
then that's always, a benefit to it. And then, we're the positive thing, like looking at the bright side, looking at the transformation that happens, it's, we're not motivated necessarily like, oh, we did that,
Right.
it's more like, the feeling of it, seeing and partaking in somebody else's success.
We were really fortunate, and we're really grateful for the ability to free ourselves from certain structures and conditions and circumstances. And because of that, we're really passionate about freeing leaders and teams and organizations to overflow with their goodness that they naturally possess inside, their nature and unique gifts that they have can flow and overflow into their best life, into their most fulfilling life. And that's what really motivates us. Obviously, we have two sons that are now 18 and 22. They are part of this kind of overflow, and we'd love to. Making a contributions is very important to us, and we'll enjoy this kind of work, and we're really grateful that we get to do it.
Oh, wow. See, this is what I meant about, your integrity and your, just the beauty in which you live your truth, and you share that with others, and through that others, blossom, right? They blossom through, it's the old, plant, blossom where you're planted, but a lot of people are planted, but they don't know how to nurture themselves or to bring that out to actually see the flowering of all their nourishment. And sometimes they don't even, like I say, they don't even know how to do the nourishing part of it, right? And like Mariana, you said, with regards to how you live on a day-by-day basis, right? It's not just, you live this, like you live this, which to me is like, wow. I love it. I love it. And with regards to the strategic growth, perhaps can you, explain to people, that might not understand it, what does it mean to do strategic growth?
Well, strategic growth is to position your resources in a way that can position your strengths and the things that you have, possess, and can get access to, that position them in a way that is thoughtful and meaningful and intentional in order to break through some problem or challenge. So we have, just by being alive, we have resources and abilities, and we have, ideally, we have choices. And those choices we want to make intentionally, so that, and marshal our resources in a way, and organize them and sequence them in a way that can actually support us to go in the direction we want to go. And many times people and organization delete their strengths, or forget them, or certain patterns overwhelm them so that they're not able to tap into them. And that's where we come in to flash the light with the flashlight, to point the flashlight in the direction where they can reclaim their strengths and resources and abilities and choices in order to free themselves up from the circumstances that are present. And so that's how I would describe it in a kind of organic way, what strategic growth is, and what strategy is. And that's what we do on. It's very similar lens for individuals, teams and organizations. It's a very similar point of view that can work across all those different contexts.
So can you give me an example of, okay, I come to you, my business life is a muck. My personal life is a muck. And I come to you and go, help.
Yeah. So what we mainly do is we meet people where they are. So one of the organizing principles that we use is what is present and what is needed.
Okay.
So we meet people where they are. What is the presenting problem? What is going on? What is needed right now? We are really good at recognizing patterns, and we're able to make suggestions and take people through processes that will enable them to make the shifts that they need to make. A lot of times the shifts can be inner world shifts.
Okay.
Inner world shifts are not a lot of people focus on the inner world.
Right.
And outer world can sometimes be the main focus of people. The world is obsessed with the outer world.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people focus on the inner world. And our start with people usually is kind of an assessment of the inner world, assessment of the quality of presence and intention that they have access to. And a lot of times the patterns that are within their inner world, like if you would, a feng shui of their soul, there's a certain arrangement inside of their inner world that is bubbling up to the surface with their problems and situations and circumstances they're encountering. So a lot of the approach that we do is a kind of rearrangement of the inner world and a different point of view on then they are currently holding, and then supporting them on the journey of adapting a new point of view. And a very similar situation also on the team and organizational journey of shifting what is occurring. So what we do is rearranging of situations, patterns, and habits and actions in a way that can support people from freeing themselves and then gaining more agency in their life, gaining more choice, tapping into more of their natural given abilities, and then we then support them on making the steps that they want to make.
Wow. I love your analogy, or in a way, a metaphor with the feng shui. It's very powerful. And yeah, the rearranging, right? The rearranging, the shifts. And you're so right on with regards to how few people, and I know a lot of people in my years on earth, that actually want to do the inner work. But once they are introduced to it, then that in itself is a shift, because you don't know till you know, right? And then once you know, you cannot not know. So it's that whole premise of, oh, you mean it's like rearranging the furniture inside of you, kind of thing, right? Oh, wow. I love it. I love it. I was going to ask you, because of your founders of the Systemic Approach Institute, right? So with regards to that has roots in family constellations? Could
Yes,
you
very so.
expand on that?
Systemic approach it's very much coming from the Bert-Hellinger approach and the phenomenological approach of coming to the moment fresh and then picking up the patterns from coming to the moment fresh over and over again over a long period of time. Beginner's mind, full presence of the not knowing mind, being able to tap into the unknown, and from the unknown to be informed on the natural way of things operating, and how we can tap into the nature of nature. And so that is definitely our approach. And we have two entities now. One is the Systemic Approach Institute, which is focusing on the inner world mainly. So if you think of the iceberg, everything below the surface of the water is handled by the Systemic Approach Institute. Everything above
Oh,
the surface of the water, everything visible is handled by the Jumpstart Your Exit.
oh, wow.
And so we are marrying the inner world and the outer world on all the interventions and strategic work that we do, and it's serving us and a lot of people. And we're very, very happy about that.
What a beautiful marriage. I mean, yours as well as this. It's incredible, really. That is just like the best of both. It truly is. And so how did family constellations come into your life?
Uh, my sister told me about it. She met someone on a plane, and then she experienced it, and then she said, "Why don't you go check that out?" We were already running the aerospace business. This was about 13 years ago,
Okay.
and we were early on in the journey of the transformation and turning the company around. We were already trainers for Tony Robbins' organization, traveling around supporting Tony's events and leading teams there and all these things. So we were already very much in the personal development side.
Mm-hmm.
Then I experienced the family constellation workshop. I tell this story a lot, but it was an incredible experience. I walked into a very small room with maybe 6 or 7 people in it, and I didn't know anything about it. And then the first process constellation of the day, I was called to participate, and I said, "No, you don't want me. Like, I don't know anything here. Like, you don't want me. I don't know anything about this. No, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine." I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be fine. So I walk in, and I'm put in the middle of the room. I'm looking around. I'm like, this is strange. I don't like everybody's looking at me. I mean, so then the client places another person in front of me, and now I'm standing in front of a woman. We're looking at each other, and literally we don't feel a thing. I don't feel a thing. I'm like, this is strange. I mean, where is the exit? What is going on? I need to get out of here. Now this is getting long. Like, we're looking at each other, and everybody else is staring at us, and nothing's happening. And I'm like, this was a mistake. This is definitely a mistake. And so the facilitator put someone else. I hear commotion, and I look over, and there's a man standing behind me, maybe 6 feet away from me. And as I turn my head forward from seeing him, I feel this incredible wave of sadness.
Oh.
And it's such a powerful wave. It just takes me over completely. Sadness and sadness. So much sadness, I'm starting to cry. And as I'm starting to cry, I'm thinking to myself, dude, you have lost it completely.
Where's the exit?
What are you doing? But I can't. I'm just taken over by the sadness, and I'm crying profusely. And now this is going on, and I'm like slobbering all over the place. And finally, like, gradually, maybe 5 minutes of very intense emotion. And as this subsides, I'm kind of wiping my eyes and open my eyes. And wow, I had the same woman, same distance, same everything. And this is like the sweetest creature on earth. All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, my body starts to move forward kind of involuntarily, and we're getting close to each other, and we embrace in a hug, and this is the sweetest hug ever. And I'm holding on to this one, and I'm thinking, well, what are you doing, man? You have now definitely lost it. And everybody's staring at us. And I'm like, wow, what is this? This is incredible. Such connection that is incredibly sweet. So much love. And the facilitator says, thank you all. Thank you very much. You can go back to your seats. And I'm like, go sit down. And I'm like, and I was really lucky because this facilitator worked in a blind manner. I knew nothing about the client. I didn't know anything about the modality. I didn't know anything about the thing. I sat down, at this point, I already had, training in NLP, training in hypnosis. I had training in the sleight of mouth and influence strategies and all this junk. And I'm like, did they hypnotize me? Did they give me something? Did I drink anything? Did I?
Been drugged.
What was this like? And I couldn't, and I knew nothing about the story, so it wasn't suggested. It wasn't nothing. I had no explanation. I had nothing. I couldn't talk myself out of it. And I tried really hard. And at the break, I cornered the facilitator and I said, you must give me something. You must tell me something. What was that? What happened there? And she said, well, the young lady that asked you to participate, she wanted to connect with her father. No matter what she tried, she couldn't connect with her father. And I said, so what happened? Well, she said, you represented her father.
Oh.
And I'm like, what? And then she said, well, he's a first generation immigrant from Hungary.
Oh my word.
I had a hunch that it might have something to do with the country of origin. So I put a representative behind you for the country of Hungary. And I'm like, what? And she said he was so homesick when he came to America.
Oh.
He couldn't function. And so he was so sad for so many years that he became numb and he cut off his sadness and with the cutting off the sadness, he cut off all the other emotions as well. And so she said, when you walked in and stood in his place, you had no defenses and you had a nervous system that could feel. So you felt all the decades of sadness.
Oh.
And I'm like, what? And my brain was just exploding. I was like, what? We're connected to countries. We got this thing. And I could feel his emotions. I'm like, so I got the story after the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I could not like walk myself out of there. I could not negate it. It was kind of a mind-blowing experience. And I got home and I was like, you're not going to believe what just happened.
Nope.
We are going to have to do a major investigation. I read 30 books in like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
I was all in and I had to learn everything about it because it was such a possibility for changing the point of view and rearranging the inner world and all of these things. And that's the experience that I owe to a lot of our journey and being able to traverse all this territory, because we definitely get into the inner world spaces and are able to support people to find more empowering meanings and create shifts that are able to tap into their natural strengths and reawaken their resources and abilities.
Wow. Just wow. Oh my gosh. This is like brilliant. I mean, oh my goodness. That was you've just answered my next question, which was all about, do you sense, that your work is a form of healing for others as well as for yourself, right? So, and it is. It definitely is. That's profound. Thank you so much for that. It was just so moving and so true of similar experience for mine, but different, but still, yeah, that's how I fell in love with and never would leave Family Constellation, the work. Just thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Wow. God bumps all over me right now. Seriously. So, in moving forward for you and I probably not pronouncing your name right. It's not Mariana.
It is.
It is? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So for both of you, what are you now motivated to and like motivated, but also curious to discover and learn related to where you are in your ongoing process of strategic work? What are you motivated and most curious to discover?
Well, it's for me, kind of one of my strengths is, kind of having ears to the ground, and then also, timelines and, things related to, different like passage of time, backwards, forwards, however you want to look at it. And,
right.
Kind of being in tune with the surroundings and what is happening. And then be that, as I say that, it's where we find ourselves now as society and humanity, and planet Earth in general, and then how far we've come, but then also how not that far we've come, when it comes to some, reactions and thinking and, just in general in society, and then also what the future holds. And there's a sense of division
Mhm.
in, everybody seeking differences and how we can point out to our differences. But then there's also a sense of a wave of people wanting to heal the division and the planet Earth and the humanity and all of that. And then there's like this one radical side, and then there's another radical side, and then there's a majority kind of in the middle, and kind of being like, okay, well, but no, but it's not all that bad and it's not all that great,
Right.
more realistic. So what and everybody keeps saying there's a period of uncertainty that is coming up, when everything that is happening. So what motivates me in that sense is, how can we stay realistic and respond what's needed and what's present in the moment? Is there a reaction that needs to happen? Is there a response that needs to happen? Is there a crisis that somebody's facing? Because, that's what we've kind of learned a lot, in the aerospace, running an aerospace company, is that, there are certain times when you have to react, and there are certain times when you have to respond. And there's a lot of times when you can be strategic to avoid both.
Mhm.
So we're really good, especially Ivan. He's really good in crisis mode, but he's also really good in kind of strategic growth. So what can we, as with all our knowledge and experience and wisdom and, and everything that worked, that didn't work, how can we help people who are potentially facing that uncertainty and don't know how to, deal with it or go through it? And then also, how can we, still keep the positive going and keep the, how can I say this? Keep the world turning without falling off
Yeah, right.
in our own little
Spinning.
way. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Um,
Absolutely.
I'd like to take a crack at this answer. What is the most present right now is that we'd love to know the difference between mandatory suffering and optional suffering.
Oh.
And so those would be the two types of suffering.
Mhm.
And some suffering in life is unavoidable.
Right.
Obviously, we age, we die, our loved ones pass on. Those are unavoidable. Suffering that is weaved into the fabric of life. But there's also the other type of suffering, which is optional suffering, where you're just spinning in your own point of view.
Right.
You're spinning in your own pain or whatever it might be. And there's a suffering that actually leads to freedom, and the suffering that leads to more suffering.
Right.
And so those may be hard moments where you have to endure some suffering in order to get free. We'd love to know the difference between the two, and we'd love to be able to have the wisdom required to communicate to people
Mhm.
where they have a choice for the suffering that leads to freedom. And that's the kind of growing edge that we're playing with, both on the individual basis as well as the team and organizational basis. And so there are certain things that are hard in life that we have to face, and those confrontations can turn out really, really well if you know which ones to take on.
Right. Which, again, you answered my next question, which was, or maybe you can expand on it more and more, but it was, how you could surpass your expectations in terms of how you're going to stretch beyond perceived any limitations, right? And to new levels in your life and in this calling, because this is your calling.
Yes, definitely. It's our calling. And, I think the beginner's mind and humility and the don't know mind. The don't know mind is critical in this process because there's so much more that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to say, and then, maybe some scientist is going to confront me one day, but this is my point of view here. If you take all the knowledge accumulated over since the beginning of civilization,
Mhm.
and you put it all on one big pile of knowledge, that big pile of knowledge would be dwarfed by the unknown. And because of that, leaning into it is where all the growth is possible.
Mm.
And because of that, having the humility of how much we don't know,
Mhm.
and opening ourselves to the unknown, opening ourselves to the insights, opening ourselves to the natural intelligence of the universe, natural intelligence of life, can create new opportunities and new possibilities and new growth that you weren't even aware of.
Wow. Well, on that note, I know listeners are going to want to know how to get in touch with you, and I'm going to post it definitely, on the promo, because I know they will. And also too, would you consider coming back again sometime in the future?
Sure,
Always.
we
Oh,
love
wow.
the
You
work
know, I,
you do, and it'd be our honor.
oh goodness, I know you're busy people, and I just really, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful that you're in my life and that I get the honor to share you with others, because this is what I love to do, is share information about people that are moving forward, that are integral, that are driven in ways that you are, that have had the experiences in life that you have. And my goodness, together for so many years, I just bless you both and thank you so much. And lots of love to your two sons as well. And
Thank you.
we will talk soon, and I will send you this recording.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.